Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. Today is just going to be me here, offering just some comments on some recent news in the industry. Some of it good, some of it a little sad. So, but first of all, who knew we'd be getting good news out of Washington D.C. So frequently? Nowadays, this has been one of the craziest election cycles I've ever seen, with a lot of different types of news coming out of DC. But the good news for us is that President Biden did in fact reauthorize the AFG and SAFER grant program. So this is great news. A few weeks ago, as you'll remember, I talked about how the Senate had passed it, and now we were just waiting for the president's signature, July 9th. The president, surrounded by a lot of fire service representatives, did in fact sign that into law. So we have it. So great job, everybody. First of all, this was something that we've been working on for quite some time on several different levels, at the grassroots, at different government organizations. We've all been kind of coming together with that one voice to explain how important these two programs are. And as I've said before, I've seen them in service, not only in my own fire department, but also I've seen the Philadelphia Fire Department benefit from them. So, but does that mean it's done? Of course not. Much like I said, okay, it's great. The House and the Senate have both signed off on this, but now we wait for the president. Now we have the president's signature. Now we have to make sure that these programs are properly funded. We've kind of seen the funding kind of do one of these over time. Sometimes it's higher, sometimes it's lower. We want to ensure that we prefer, of course, that the appropriation go up, but at the very least, we don't want it to go down. We want to maintain it, and that's critically important these days. The challenging times for purchasing equipment and apparatus have not subsided yet. Municipal budgets have not caught up to the current price structure for apparatus and equipment. So we are still in a place where these programs are critically important. As I've said before, I can remember a time when they didn't exist. Many of our newest firefighters, or even firefighters who have 20, 25 years on the job, they've always known this to be something, to be something. Well, maybe not 20, 25, but some of our newest firefighters have always known that these programs exist. They have not been in a fire service where these programs didn't exist. So, it's critically important that they understand. Not only do we all need to get together and make sure that we talk to our congresspeople, our senators, to make sure that these programs are funded properly, but we also have to do a great job of explaining to our newer members, our younger members in the fire service, just how important these programs are and why they are important. I just give a little teaser for our August issue. In that issue, I started to talk about technology in my editorial, and technology. It's the why behind the technology. Why is it useful to us? And sometimes people like me, 30 years in the fire service, I talk about the old days, and I talk about them fondly because I had a lot of fun in the old days. It's not that I don't have fun now, but I had a lot of fun in the old days. But it's never in a spirit of we shouldn't do things this way now. This is how we did it back then. It's always just kind of reminiscing. It's more kind of like I can't believe we did it like that back in the day. That kind of thing. But it is also important to explain to our younger members, our newer members, what it was like before we had integrated pass devices in our SCBA. What it was like before there were thermal imaging cameras on every truck, if not with every firefighter. What it was like when there was only one portable two-way radio on the truck. These are all things that 30 years ago were a reality that today are not. And so it's important to say this is how having a thermal imaging camera on every truck has increased our efficiency, has increased the success of our operations. There's nothing wrong with accepting new technology and implementing it. We also need to do the same sort of thing with the AFG and the SAFER grant programs. We need to explain what life was like before we had those programs, and we need to explain why their existence today is so important. So really, more good news out of Washington, D.C. Who saw that coming so soon? But it's good. It's good to see. It's very good to see. And we also, with a potential change in leadership at the presidential level, we're going to need to make sure, and possibly the House of Representatives and Congress, we need to make sure that we are contacting everyone to ensure, because there could be a change. We could see a turnover. It's going to be sort of a re-education process to get everybody on board and to ensure that that these programs are funded appropriately, at least maintaining the funding we have now, hopefully increasing them. Another item is in Pennsylvania. It's hard to comment on it because not everybody, we don't have all of the information yet. We had a couple of tankers collide en route to one was going back to, I think one had filled up and was headed back to the fire scene in York, Pennsylvania. Another one was either heading to the scene or was heading out to refill. But there were two tankers. They collided. 7 firefighters injured. Now, as luck would have it, there were no life-threatening injuries. There were some various injuries, but not life-threatening. And it is being treated right now as an accident. And these accidents do unfortunately occur sometimes. All I can really say is just everybody continue to be vigilant. Accidents do occur, and when they occur, in a situation like this, we've now got 7 firefighters who can't go help. We have 2 units, 2 resources that need to be replaced. Vigilance. Vigilance is key. Watch those intersections. Let the intersection breathe. We ran an article a few months ago about apparatus operations where the author is suggesting let the intersection breathe. Even if you've got the green, come to a stop. Make sure every avenue is clear before proceeding through. All of us who are apparatus operators know that that's sometimes one of the hardest things to do. And even the most disciplined driver at times will have difficulty, because they know it's a job. They know they got to get there fast. But just be vigilant. We never like to see apparatus hit. We never like to see, of course, 2 apparatus colliding. So, again, you can't really comment on any of the operations. It's being treated as an accident, and hopefully it stays that way. But we do need to take a look at those things, and we always try to learn from them. Nobody's Monday morning quarterbacking. We're always just trying to learn. And really the only recommendation right now is stay vigilant. Call the intersections if you can. It's just one more thing that that an officer on another truck can say. All right. Watch out here. I know for my own. Whether I was a driver or whether I was the officer on the other side, I can see the intersection in my head right now, and it was always make sure they're not coming. Make sure they're not coming, because it wasn't our first due, and the firehouse for whose first due it was just down this one street. So we always had to make sure that they weren't coming. And that's just part of the thing. It's just vigilance. And I am not by any stretch of the imagination suggesting that anyone did anything wrong here. It sounds like it was an accident, and that's the way it's being treated. Of course, I look forward to any future reports about it, so that again we can learn from the incident. So again, it's a shame, but luckily all the firefighters were expected to recover. Most, if not all, have been released by the hospital that they were brought to. So again, just be vigilant, everybody. Call those intersections. Let the intersection breathe. I think that's the biggest thing. Listen for other rigs coming. But of course, just make sure, of course, that you're vigilant. The drivers, watch out for everything. You gotta watch defensively. I know it might not apply, in this situation entirely, but I do remember, my first chief engineer saying, make sure the other guys know what you're going to do. Because if there's any guesswork, that's when things happen. So again, vigilance. I think vigilance is key, and let those intersections breathe. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was we lost one of our own here in Pennsylvania. We lost a fellow Pennsylvanian, but we also lost a fellow firefighter at a presidential rally out in central to western Pennsylvania over last weekend. Corey Comparator was the victim there, and he died, saving his loved ones' lives. Unfortunately, it was during the shooting at a presidential rally, and he was the individual who did perish there. And there's nothing that you can really say about that except, I hope that if something like that ever came to me, I always question myself, but I certainly always hope that I would react the same way. I remember when I was a young firefighter, I was talking to my grandfather, who is a Philadelphia firefighter, and I was talking about how I was concerned. I was trained. I had gone through all my training. I was starting to ride the trucks, but we hadn't had a job yet. We hadn't had a working job. And I said to him, I was concerned. Well, of course, I was young then and so new that, you just want to do everything right. You don't realize, now I can look back and go, well, of course, there's going to be this or that could have been done a little differently. But I was certainly concerned that, that I wouldn't, perform the way I was supposed to at that fire call, the one that I hadn't gone to yet, the working job I hadn't gone to yet. And he just said, you react, you learn to react. And, certainly, firefighter and former chief Comparator reacted. And he saved his family in so doing. So, of course, our thoughts are with his fire company, with his family. We're grateful that he was able to save his family, and we are sad that we lost one of our own, not only a fellow Pennsylvanian, but also also a fellow firefighter. I did have one more thing, though, and it's a curiosity question. I would love to hear from you about it. I'm at chris.mcloone at clarionevents.com, CLARION events.com. And what I'm wondering is just about your fire departments or your fire companies' rules, regulations, guidelines, procedures regarding gear in the truck for the apparatus operators. I know that for a long time at my own fire company, I was always expected to wear bunker pants and the boots and when I was driving. Over time, we said, well, okay, if you're wearing pants and you have some work boots on, you can drive with just those. It's one of those things where over time, like if you think about the LaFrance I'm always talking about that people are probably tired of hearing me talking about, there was no engine tunnel between, me and the officer. So there was actually, and I'm 6'4", so there's actually, a little bit of room for me to stretch out a little bit. But as we have gotten, as I've gotten older, as the trucks have changed in design, there is now, the engine tunnel between us. The space between that engine tunnel and the door sometimes is condensed, is reduced. I have certainly, gear has changed over the years, and I have been able, as I've gotten bigger pockets in my gear, I've put more stuff in those pockets, and that creates even less room in between the engine tunnel and the door. So, so that was a welcome change. Okay, as long as that I did not have to don them. I'm just curious about what your department does and why. Is there a specific reason why? We see pictures all the time of different fire departments and their pump operators or their apparatus operators with different gear. Maybe some wear the jacket and not the bunker pants. Some wear the bunker pants and not the jacket. Depending on the time of year, maybe if it's winter time, they might just have a real heavy sweatshirt on if they're operating an aerial or something like that. So just curious, what is yours? I'd love to know, because I'd love to just have a good idea of what everyone is doing out there, in the fire service in different places. So please let me know. Chris.McLoone, McLoone at Clarion Events, CLARION events.com. Well, that brings me to about the end here. I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July holiday. If you were on duty, I hope it was a light day and you got a chance to have maybe a little bit of a different dinner. Maybe you got a chance to do some barbecuing on the 4th of July. And maybe if you were able to see fireworks from your station, hopefully that were legal fireworks from your station. Hopefully you got to. If you're on maybe the volunteer side, I hope there were lots of parades. Parades are always so fun. I'm lucky where I live in Glenside, Pennsylvania. We are told one of the, if not the oldest, continually running parade in the country for the 4th of July. And of course, my fire company and other fire companies have always participated, and it's always a good time. A little bit of the younger folks are doing most of that today. But these parades are so critically important to our communities. And it really gives us an opportunity to put our best foot forward with our community, and they can kind of get to know us and get to know our capabilities, at least by looking at the trucks that are going by. So I do hope that you had a great Independence Day. We're getting to the end of July here. So, and I think my last one, I wished everybody to have a good one. I hope that having gone through it now, I'll tell you what, it was hot. It was hot in the Mid-Atlantic. It was quite a hot day, but enjoyable. But enjoyable as always, celebrating the birth of our nation. So again, this has been Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. If you do have any topics that you'd like me to hit on, please let me know. Again, chris.mcloone at clarionevents.com. If you would like to watch our podcasts, they are all archived on our website at fireapparatusmagazine.com/podcasts. But they're also available on most of your more popular podcast platforms like a Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, things of that nature. So again, Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one and stay safe.